The Great Banishment. The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Assembly Hall stretched high above Ambassador Sarah Chen as she stood alone in the defendant circle. Around her, in tiered seats that spiraled up toward the dome's peak, sat representatives from over 800 different species. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime, converting the angry voices of countless aliens into words she could understand. Sarah kept her back straight and her hands clasped behind her as she faced the High Arbitrator, a towering being whose crystalline body caught and reflected the chamber's lights in dazzling patterns. To her left sat Commander Marcus Vale, humanity's military representative, his weathered face showing no emotion despite the gravity of their situation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, their chief scientist, sat to her right, frantically taking notes on her portable device. The High Arbitrator raised one of its many arms, and the chamber fell silent. When it spoke, its voice rang like bells through the vast space. We are gathered today to address the matter of the human species and their continued membership in the Galactic Cooperative. A ripple of hostile murmurs swept through the assembled aliens. Sarah had expected this day would come. For the past 50 years, since humanity had first made contact with galactic civilization, tensions had been building. Humans, it seemed, had a talent for disrupting the careful order that had governed the galaxy for millennia. The Vorthek representative, a creature resembling a massive slug with multiple eye stalks, slithered forward to address the assembly. The humans, it said in a voice like grinding stone, have repeatedly violated the natural order of things. They encourage lower species to rise above their designated stations. They question authority that has maintained peace for 10,000 years. Sarah felt her jaw tighten. The natural order the Vorthak spoke of was a rigid caste system where species were ranked based on when they had achieved space travel and how much territory they controlled. Humans, as one of the newest species to join galactic society, were expected to remain quiet and follow the lead of their betters. But humans had never been good at staying quiet. The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering field, pulsed brighter as it spoke. The humans spread dangerous ideas. They tell subjugated species that all sentient beings deserve equal rights. They share technology with worlds that have not earned such advancement. This disrupts the careful balance we have maintained. Dr. Rodriguez stood up despite Sarah's warning glance. If by balance you mean keeping entire civilizations as servants while you hoard knowledge and resources, then yes, we disrupt it. We believe in helping others grow and advance, not keeping them down to maintain your power. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Species that had been content with their positions in the hierarchy for thousands of years were suddenly questioning why they should remain subservient. Worlds that had accepted their fate as resource providers were demanding fair trade agreements. And at the center of it all were humans, encouraging change wherever they went. The Corellian Chancellor, a being that looked like a cross between a mantis and a tree, clicked its mandibles angrily. The humans have no respect for tradition or proper authority. They form alliances with primitive species and treat them as equals. They refuse to acknowledge their place in the natural hierarchy. Commander Vale finally spoke, his voice calm but carrying the weight of his years. We've served alongside many of you in peacekeeping missions. We've shared our medical advances that have saved billions of lives across dozens of worlds. We've helped end conflicts and prevented wars. Is this the behavior of a dangerous species? The Zephyrian delegate, a floating jellyfish-like creature, changed colors rapidly as it responded. Your military tactics are unpredictable and chaotic. You do not follow established protocols. You improvise solutions that should not work but somehow do. This randomness threatens the stability of our combined forces. Sarah almost smiled at that. It was true that human military thinking didn't match the rigid doctrines favored by most galactic species. Where others saw chaos, humans saw adaptability. Where others followed ancient battle plans, humans invented new strategies on the spot. The High Arbitrator gestured for silence. The accusations have been presented. The evidence of human disruption to galactic order is clear. However, before we proceed to judgment, the humans will be allowed to speak in their defense. Sarah stepped forward. She had prepared for this moment, knowing it might be humanity's last chance to remain part of galactic civilization. Honored representatives, she began, we stand accused of disrupting your order. We do not deny this. We are proud of it. Gasps and angry shouts filled the chamber. Sarah waited for quiet before continuing. For 10,000 years, your galaxy has been divided into rulers and servants, advanced species and primitive ones, the worthy and the unworthy. You call this order. We call it injustice. When we see a species being exploited, we offer help. When we encounter beings kept in ignorance, we share knowledge. When we find worlds suffering under oppression, we stand with those who seek freedom. The Matherian representative, a creature of living metal, spoke with a voice like grinding gears. You speak of oppression, but we have maintained peace. There have been no major wars in 5,000 years. Peace built on the suffering of others is not true peace, Dr. Rodriguez interjected. It's simply organized oppression. The species you've designated as lesser have the same capacity for growth and achievement as any of you. We've seen it proven time and again. The Synthesian delegate, a hive-mind entity speaking through multiple small drones, buzzed angrily. The humans corrupt the natural development of species. They accelerate advancement beyond safe parameters. They create instability where there was once predictable growth. Commander Vale stood. What you call corruption, we call friendship. What you call instability, we call opportunity. In 50 years of contact with over 300 species, we've never conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. We've only helped and defended. Can all of you say the same? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Sarah looked around the chamber and saw uncomfortable shifts among some of the representatives. The truth was that many of the advanced species had built their power through conquest and subjugation, practices they justified as bringing order to chaos. The High Arbitrator began the formal charges. The human species stands accused of disrupting established hierarchical systems, encouraging rebellion among designated subordinate species, sharing advanced technology without proper authorization, and refusing to accept their designated position within galactic society. To each of these charges, Sarah replied clearly, humanity pleads guilty with pride. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Hundreds of alien voices rose in outrage. Some called for immediate punishment. Others demanded humanity be stripped of all technology and returned to their home system. A few, Sarah noticed, remained silent. When order was finally restored, the High Arbitrator continued. The punishment for these crimes, by ancient law, is exile from civilized space. The human species will have 90 standard days to remove all presence from cooperative territory. Any human ship or installation found within our borders after this period will be destroyed without warning. Sarah felt the words hit her like physical blows. Exile meant losing everything humanity had built in the galaxy. Colonies, trade routes, research stations, diplomatic missions, all would have to be abandoned. But as she looked at Commander Vale and Dr. Rodriguez, she saw something unexpected in their eyes. Not defeat, but determination. Not fear, but resolve. We understand the terms of our exile, Sarah said formally. We will comply with your demands. But remember this day. Remember that you had the chance to build something better with us. Instead, you chose fear over progress, control over cooperation. The Ultrarian representative, one of the few species that had worked closely with humans, spoke quietly. Is there no possibility of negotiation? Perhaps restrictions instead of exile? The High Arbitrator's crystalline form flashed red. The decision is final. The vote was overwhelming. The humans have shown they cannot coexist with civilized society. As the formal session ended and the alien representatives began filing out, Sarah remained in the defendant's circle with her companions. They were joined by the few species representatives who had either abstained or voted against the exile. The Alturian delegate approached them. "This is a dark day for the galaxy," she said sadly. "Your species brought hope to many of us who had forgotten what it felt like to dream of something better." Dr. Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Don't worry about us. Humans have a talent for thriving where others expect us to fail." Commander Vale was already activating his communication device. "All human vessels and installations. This is command. Operation Homeward begins immediately. Prepare for emergency evacuation protocols." As they walked out of the crystal dome for the last time, Sarah turned back to look at the assembled alien representatives. Many were already discussing how to divide up the territories and resources that humans would be forced to abandon. "They think they've solved a problem," she said quietly to her companions. Dr. Rodriguez checked her portable device, which was receiving constant updates from human colonies across the galaxy. 90 days to pack up 50 years of civilization. 90 days to prepare for the next phase. Commander Vale corrected. "This isn't the end of humanity's story in the galaxy. It's just the end of the first chapter." Sarah nodded, feeling a strange sense of liberation. For 50 years, humans had tried to fit into the galactic order, accepting limitations and restrictions in exchange for membership in civilized society. Now they were free to build something entirely new. As their ship lifted off from Nexus Prime, carrying them away from the seat of galactic power, Sarah looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human colonies were already receiving evacuation orders. Research teams were packing up decades of work. Families were preparing to leave the only homes they had ever known. But humans had something their former galactic neighbors didn't understand. They had faced extinction before and emerged stronger. They had been scattered across their own solar system and found ways to thrive in the harshest environments. They had been told they were too primitive, too chaotic, too unpredictable to succeed. Now they would have the chance to prove that being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The galaxy had just made humanity very, very motivated. Rise of the Human Empire. 15 years after the Great Banishment, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UH Defiance, watching the massive fleet assemble before her. What had once been a desperate exodus had become the largest military and exploratory force the galaxy had ever seen. Ships from dozens of species flew in perfect formation, all bearing the symbol of the human commonwealth, not because they were conquered, but because they had chosen to join. Admiral Captain James Park reported from his position at the tactical station. "We're receiving another batch of asylum requests. Looks like 3 more Corellian colony ships and what appears to be an entire Vortex science expedition." Sarah smiled. The same species that had voted for humanity's exile were now fleeing to human space in record numbers. Grant them standard sanctuary protocols. Make sure they understand our terms: freedom to live as they choose, protection from cooperative retaliation, and voluntary service to defend our common interests. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now Director of Commonwealth Scientific Advancement, approached with her usual bundle of reports. Her hair had gone gray in the years since exile, but her eyes burned with an excitement that seemed to grow stronger each day. "Sarah, you need to see the latest breakthrough from the Ta-Ceti research stations." She activated a holographic display that showed a sleek ship design unlike anything in the known galaxy. "We've done it. Faster than light travel without using the galactic hyperspace network. Our new quantum tunnel drives can cross the galaxy in days rather than months, and we don't need their navigation beacons or permission to use established routes." Captain Park whistled softly. "Independent FTL capability. That changes everything." "It's just the beginning," Dr. Rodriguez continued enthusiastically. "The combination of human innovation with the knowledge brought by our refugee scientists has created breakthroughs we never imagined. Energy weapons that phase through conventional shields, defensive systems that adapt in real time, manufacturing techniques that can build a fleet in weeks rather than years." Sarah nodded approvingly. The Commonwealth had grown beyond anything the Galactic Cooperative could have imagined. What had started as scattered human colonies in the Outer Rim had become a thriving civilization spanning hundreds of systems. More importantly, it had become a beacon of hope for species tired of the cooperative's rigid hierarchy. President Maria Santos materialized as a hologram beside them, transmitting from the Commonwealth capital on New Geneva. "Admiral, we've just received disturbing intelligence from our sources within cooperative space. They're planning something called Operation Cleansing Storm." Sarah's expression hardened. "Details: a coordinated strike against our outer colonies. They're mobilizing the largest military force in galactic history. Over 2,000 ships from 40 different species. Their goal is to cripple our expansion and force the refugee species to return to cooperative control." Dr. Rodriguez shook her head in disbelief. "After 15 years of peace, they're starting a war because too many species are choosing freedom over servitude." "They're scared," Captain Park observed. "Word has spread about what we've built out here. Species that have been oppressed for millennia are seeing that there's an alternative to the cooperative system." Sarah walked to the bridge's main viewport, looking out at the fleet that had assembled for routine patrol exercises. In the distance, she could see ships from the Altrurian Republic, the Free Matherian Union, the liberated Zephyrian colonies, and dozens of other species that had broken away from cooperative control to join the Commonwealth. "How long until their fleet reaches our territory?" she asked. 6 standard days, President Santos replied. "They're using traditional hyperspace routes, which gives us an advantage in mobility and surprise." "Admiral," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly, "there's something else. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive energy signatures from cooperative space. They're not just sending warships. They're bringing planet-killer weapons." The bridge fell silent. Planet killers were weapons of absolute destruction, supposedly reserved for use against existential threats to galactic civilization. The cooperative was preparing to commit genocide to maintain its power structure. Sarah turned back to her crew, her decision already made. "Captain Park, signal all Commonwealth fleets. Full mobilization protocols. Dr. Rodriguez, I want every new technology we've developed ready for deployment. President Santos, issue a galaxy-wide broadcast. It's time the entire galaxy knew what the cooperative is really willing to do to maintain control." Over the next 6 days, the Commonwealth prepared for the largest military engagement in galactic history. But they weren't just preparing to defend themselves. They were preparing to end the cooperative's tyrannical rule once and for all. When the cooperative fleet arrived at the edge of Commonwealth space, they expected to find scattered colonies and outdated human technology. Instead, they encountered something that defied their understanding of what was possible. The Commonwealth fleet that met them was 3 times larger than their own, composed of ships using technology that seemed impossible. Human vessels phased through their weapons fire, struck from impossible angles, and coordinated with alien allies in ways that broke every established rule of space combat. Admiral Thexus, commanding the cooperative force from his massive dreadnought, stared in disbelief at his tactical displays. How is this possible? Intelligence reports said the humans had limited resources and obsolete technology. His tactical officer, a nervous synthesian drone, buzzed frantically. "Sir, their weapons are penetrating our shields as if they don't exist. Our return fire is having minimal effect. They appear to have developed some form of adaptive defensive system." On the Commonwealth flagship, Sarah watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "Target their command vessels first. Disable, don't destroy. I want prisoners, not martyrs." The battle was less of a fight and more of a demonstration. Commonwealth ships moved through space with impossible grace, their quantum tunnel drives allowing them to appear anywhere on the battlefield instantly. Cooperative vessels found themselves surrounded before they could react, their weapons useless against shields that adapted to every attack. Within 4 hours, the mighty cooperative fleet was either captured or in full retreat. Admiral Thexus found himself a prisoner aboard the Defiance, facing the human who had once stood trial before his species. "This is impossible," he said, his reptilian features showing confusion and fear. 15 years ago, You were barely capable of interstellar flight. How did you develop such advanced technology? Sarah smiled. The same way we've always developed technology, through cooperation, innovation, and the refusal to accept limitations. When you cast us out, you freed us from your restrictions on research and development. When you refused to share knowledge with lesser species, we welcomed all who wanted to learn and contribute. Dr. Rodriguez joined them in the detention area. Every species that fled to us brought their knowledge and expertise. Metherian metallurgy, Altrurian energy manipulation, Zephyrian biotechnology, and dozens of other scientific traditions that the cooperative kept separate. We combined them all with human adaptability and innovation. The result, Captain Park added, is a civilization that advances faster than your rigid system ever could. While you spent 15 years maintaining the status quo, we spent 15 years revolutionizing everything. Admiral Thexus looked around the advanced ship that held him prisoner. What do you intend to do with us? With the cooperative? Sarah considered the question carefully. We're going to do what we've always done, offer a choice. The cooperative can continue to exist for those species that prefer its rigid order, but it will no longer have the power to force others to participate. Every species will have the right to choose their own path. You're talking about the end of galactic civilization, Thexus protested. We're talking about the beginning of galactic freedom, President Santos corrected, joining the conversation via hologram. The cooperative maintained order through force and fear. We maintained cooperation through mutual benefit and respect. Over the following days, the galaxy watched in amazement as the Commonwealth systematically dismantled the cooperative's military infrastructure while simultaneously offering aid and protection to any species that wanted independence. World after world declared freedom from cooperative rule, many joining the Commonwealth while others chose to remain independent but allied. The transformation was rapid and decisive. The rigid hierarchy that had governed the galaxy for millennia crumbled in a matter of weeks, replaced by a loose confederation of free species working together by choice rather than compulsion. Dr. Rodriguez stood in her new laboratory aboard the Commonwealth's mobile research station, surrounded by scientists from over 100 different species. We've just received confirmation from the Outer Rim. The last cooperative strongholds have accepted the new order. The transition is complete. Sarah, now promoted to Grand Admiral of Commonwealth Forces, looked out at a galaxy transformed. From exile to empire in 15 years. Not bad for a supposedly primitive species. We never built an empire, Captain Park corrected. We built something better, a true partnership of equals. The Commonwealth had proven that cooperation was stronger than control, that diversity created strength rather than weakness, and that the only limits on what species could achieve were the ones they accepted for themselves. Humanity had been cast out for disrupting the galactic order. In response, they had replaced that order with something far better. A galaxy where every species could reach for the stars and know that others would help them get there. The age of hierarchies was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And at its heart were humans, still chaotic, still unpredictable, still refusing to accept that anything was impossible.